Hey friends, Disgruntled Worm here today to talk about something that's going to push our original content for tomorrow. And that is, of course, the layoffs that are happening at Bungie, as well as the fact that Lightfall is being pushed out to June of next year instead of February. Let's talk about it, right? Now, first of all, we don't have any solid information on anything that's going on, except for the fact that Bungie is laying off a bunch of employees from a bunch of different departments, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm going to lay off, we're going to lay off, the janitorial team or, the management team, nothing like that. Like it's art teams, it's production. I mean, it's a little bit of everybody, right? So it's no specifics, but we do know that members who have worked on the game are getting laid off, right? And we'll talk about that more in just a second. But also, of course, not Lightfall. The final shape is getting pushed out to June. And initially, like the first bit of information I heard about this whole thing was that it was simply that the final shape, sorry, I'm going to keep calling it Lightfall. The final shape is getting pushed to June. And when I heard this, I didn't know anything else. I didn't know anything about the layoffs or anything like that. My thought was, hey, hold on. Like lots of people are disgruntled and complaining about it, right? But that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? What happened with Witch Queen, right? Witch Queen was delayed from a November release or something like that, October, November release to a February release. But Witch Queen turned out perfect. And I mean, Witch Queen was great, and maybe not perfect, but Witch Queen was fantastic. Witch Queen was one of, in my opinion, one of the best DLCs we've ever got in Destiny 2, right? I still think very fondly of it, and then we got Lightfall. We're not talking about Lightfall, but that was my initial thought was, hey, like it might not be a bad thing, right? It might not be a bad thing. Like they've done this before. And when they do this, it's because they felt like they needed more time to polish things up and make it better. But when I started hearing more and more about it, I don't think that's the case. And as much as I want to say we should maybe try to get our hopes up that we're going to have a much more fleshed out final shape launch and a much more complete feeling final shape launch, I don't know if that's going to be the case, because the other part of it is that there have been massive layoffs at Bungie. And again, we have no hard information on this, but I'm going to speculate a little bit as to why, because I think there's a lot of hints that we've been getting from people who work at Bungie, as well as some things that have been going on over the past couple weeks and months, right? So of course, the big thing that we all know and we're all aware of is that Bungie was acquired by Sony back in 2021, 2022. I don't remember exactly when it was, or maybe it was 2022. I think it was 2022. Bungie acquired Sony, meaning they bought them out for $3.7 billion, right? So Bungie became backed by a massive parent company. Well, and again, this is where the speculation begins. The CEO, or was it the CEO? Some head honcho at Sony by the name of Jim Ryan. He was a big proponent of live service games, right? And that's one of the reasons why Destiny 2 was bought out by Sony, right? Because Bungie. Bungie has Destiny 2, and Destiny 2 is a live service game that gets a ton of players and a ton of traction. Like this is not some indie game. This is not some small scale game. Like Destiny is close to the top of the charts, right? It's a major game and it's live service. And Jim Ryan was a big fan of live service games. I don't know. I remember reading about that somewhere a couple months ago, a couple years ago, something like that. Jim Ryan was, he was a big fan of these live service games. And I think that's the reason why why Sony acquired Bungie. It's still Monday, guys. Bear with me here. My language is a little off. But that's why Sony acquired Bungie. But one thing we do know is that Jim Ryan is stepping down. He's retiring from Sony like next month or in 2 months, something like that. Like it's not far out from now. With him retiring, does that mean that does that mean that Sony is going to move away from live service games? It's possible, right? And I recall seeing, or maybe I was hearing somewhere that Sony, doesn't like Sony, the company itself, which I guess is a accumulation of multiple individuals that work there, don't care much for live service games. But of course, Jim Ryan was the one that called the shots. So he's the one that bought Bungie because it had a live service game that was doing well, and he felt like live service games were doing fantastic. But now with him going away, with him stepping out, retiring, and leaving Sony now has the ability to do what it wants. Right? And if it doesn't like live service games, why why would they want to be a part of Destiny? You know, Destiny is a live service game. Okay, and that's kind of the first thought that I have, and it goes, I guess you could say, like, there's more to it than that, but I think that that's a big portion of it, right? And it's, you asked me, I think it's all due to financials. Well, I almost think it's all due to financial reasons, right? Because not only that, you know, Final Shape's getting pushed into a new fiscal year as well. And I don't know much about, you know, businesses and money in the deep detailed sense, right? But I do know that it is a new fiscal year. June is a new fiscal year, and I think that might have something to do with it as well, right? Because they're pushing the delay back, but they also fired a bunch of people. Like my thought is, okay, Bungie fired all these people because Sony told them to, but Bungie fired all these people because of whatever financial reason. I really think that there's financial motive behind it, because when you take companies that do this and you know, make these changes, it's for financial reasons, right? And Bungie just got $3.7 billion, so I couldn't imagine what the financial reason would be for letting all these people go, right? But with all these people being let go, Destiny 2's team is now much smaller, right? And so what they were slating on releasing in February, they're going to have to work overtime to produce in June, right? 4 months after February, which, that, I mean, I feel, number one, I feel for the people that are still at Bungie that got to work overtime to get that, you know, to get that fixed. But I also feel for the people who are fired at Bungie as well, because that's wrong. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. But that is initially kind of what I was thinking, right? That was initially my thoughts. I was like, I bet this was Sony. I highly doubt it was Bungie. Bungie has always seemed, keyword is seemed, like a pretty fair, you know, like employee-oriented company. You know, they're always posting stuff about, you know, we stand with the world. They have charity events. We stand with Maui and stuff like that. But this puts all that into question. Like, do they genuinely care? Like, does the company itself genuinely care, or do they do it for financial reasons? Because you say, oh, well, we our hearts go out for Maui, but let's also fire all of our people. You know, let's fire people that don't deserve to be fired. Let's lay off, whatever you want to call it. I say it's fired. But let's lay off people that really don't deserve it, who contribute to the game. Let's do that for financial reasons so that we can make more money. At any rate, I don't want to get too political here. But that was my initial thought, was that it was all Sony, blah, blah, blah. But I saw that DMG posted on X or Twitter, and he basically, I don't have it pulled up anymore. It was on my phone here, but I closed out of it. But he basically said some lines about poor management. And so that makes me believe, well, maybe it's not a Sony decision. Maybe it's a Bungie decision. And again, I don't know what on earth is going on at Bungie. Like if it's not Sony, if Sony has nothing to do with it, what's going on at Bungie that would cause them to lay off X amount of employees? I don't know. We don't know how many employees have been laid off or fired yet. We don't, but we know that a bunch did. How many? Like what? Like why would they do that? Why would Bungie do that? Like, I feel like that would shoot themselves in the foot. Like, they're already on thin ice with players, right, in Destiny 2. You know, and they're putting, I feel like they're putting a lot of stock into Marathon, which I don't think Marathon's going to do as well as Destiny 2 does, right? I think that they're getting really, really ambitious and thinking, oh, Marathon is going to be this incredible game that's going to do as well as Destiny 2. I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to do that. But, you know, I don't know the reason why. I think it's wrong. I think it's unfortunate and incredibly just maybe greedy. Like, if it's a financial reason to fire all these people, like, maybe there's greed involved. I don't really know. We also don't know. Maybe the Eververse store is really not supporting it. Maybe Destiny 2 is not making enough money to support this team, you know, that's working on it, which I don't know. I would say that, you know, cut the salary of the CEO and the CFO and all these big wigs to keep your devs, but, you know, that's just me. But I don't know, man. It's really unfortunate to hear this happening. And like I said, like, I was initially excited because maybe it's going to mean that Final Shape is a great release. Now I'm thinking that's probably not going to be the case. I think that Final Shape is going to launch the exact same way that it would have in February, but now 4 months later in June, number one. And then number two, like, that's even if it is up to standard. Because without your art team and production team and your communications team and all this stuff, like, how are you going to have a top tier high quality game, right? I don't know. This is all speculation. Of course, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for updates on this whole situation because I want to know what's going on. I want a statement from Bungie, which at this point, I don't know if I'd even believe a statement, if I'm being honest, but I want at least something from Bungie, and I want to see some Bungie employees talk about it on their media and stuff like that. You know, I know that a lot of Bungie devs and of course the community managers are active on Twitter or X, sorry. I want to know what they have to say about it, right? And so I'm going to keep my eyes peeled on Twitter, X today, whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled today for more information. And if anything else develops, of course, we'll have another video talking about it. But in the meantime, share your thoughts on this whole situation in the comments below, because frankly, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I'm not happy about it, obviously, but we all know that there's multiple sides to any given story, right? So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Of course, like this video to help the people at Bungie, you know. Hopefully Bungie can see this and know that their player base is kind of not feeling their decision right here. But yeah, other than that, watch the videos I guess you see on the end screen, because YouTube thinks you'll like them, and they'll probably be much lighter content than this one. Yeah, that's it for me, guys. Y'all have a good day. Bye for now.